Hello everyone, welcome back to the Python programming series. We are in the part 15 of this series, and in this video I'm going to explain about something which I have not covered in the previous video of the functions topic. And this is the part 2 of these functions, and in this video I'm going to explain about parameters and arguments more clearly. So let's understand parameters and arguments more clearly in this video. So in the previous video, I have taken this example called XYZ, and which takes three variables for addition, and it prints out the sum of these three data elements, and whatever the data elements require, I am giving it when I am calling the function. So the data elements which we pass into the function to take some actions are called arguments, and the data elements, the data variables, let's say data variables which we receive in a function definition are called parameters. So now whatever the data, I've said these data elements which I actually share or send to the function are completely different from the variables which receive them. So the name which we have given while sending the data elements are called arguments, and the duplicates which they receive are called parameters. So the variables which are in the function's definition, which take out the values which are given during the function call, are called parameters. So these are called parameters and these are called arguments. Suppose if I say a is equals to 10, b is equals to 20, which are not part of the function's indentation, and if I send like this, and if I send a, b, c here as like this, if I send a, b, c here, do you think it will work? Let's see. Yes, of course it's work. So a, b, c, which are given during the function call, are called arguments, and the x, y, z which are receiving these data elements are called parameters. So that's what you need as a basic understanding. So parameters are given during the function definition, arguments are given during the function call. So a function expects, so when during the function definition itself we say that the function expects three values, so when we are calling the function we give out those three values which are called arguments, and these are called parameters which receive those arguments. So parameters and arguments, I hope this is clear. And now let us understand what are positional arguments, what are keyword arguments. Let us understand that. What are positional arguments? So positional arguments, when we give out the arguments to a function, like when we give out the data elements to a function, the position matters. Like if I say, for more clear understanding, if I am creating a function called let's say details, so details of student function, which expects the name of the student, age of the student, and roll number of the student. So my details student function is actually expecting three values from the user, that is name of the function, name of the student, age of the student, roll number of the student. So these are the data elements which my function is expecting, which are called parameters, right? Suppose if I what my function has to do with those values, my function has to print the name, my function has to print the age, my function has to print the roll number, right? So this is what my function has to do. It has to print all the three details of the student. So, but do you think when I run this, it will execute that? No. Why? Because when I need to call the function to actually execute the instructions. Now, if I actually call this function called details student, do you think it will get execute with this just parenthesis? If I do this, do you think it will execute? No, because my function is expecting three arguments, like the three data elements which I need to enter. So when I am saying my name is Ranga, my age is 18, let's say, and the roll number is let's say 27. And now if I run this, do you think it will execute? Yes, it definitely. So what are positional arguments is, when I expect the name of the student in the first as the first argument, I have to definitely give out name as the first argument. If I am expecting age of the student as the second argument, I should definitely enter the age of the student in the second argument. When I am expecting the roll number as the third argument, I have to definitely correctly enter the roll number of the student as my third argument. If in case I reverse the order or I change the order of giving the arguments, like I'm sending the roll number as the first thing, then name as the second thing, second argument, and let's say age as the third argument. And do you think it will execute correctly? And for more clear understanding, let's keep this all in the formatted strings, like name, and then you give out the name, and then age, you give out the age, and then you take formatted string, roll number, and you take out roll number, right? Let's see. Sorry. Yeah. Now let's start executing this. You see, name is 27, age is Ranga, and roll number is 25. Completely different, right? This is not how we expect an output. So when I actually mention a function, when I actually create a function saying that my first argument I need to receive is name, I actually should give the name of the first person as the first data element to the function. So if at all I change the order of sending the values, if the order of sending the values is completely different from the order of receiving the values, then you will get unexpected results. So I hope it's clear. When the function expects name, age, roll number, that is the order, then the order of sending the values should be exactly same. So we need to start with name first, then give out the age, then give out the roll number. So that's the called positional argument. So the position of giving the arguments, should be followed. So whatever the position which is mentioned during the function definition has to be followed while sending the data elements. So that is called positional arguments. So I hope you got it. Now let us understand what are keyword arguments. Suppose when you're writing 1,000 lines of code and you don't want to see out the function which is written in the beginning of the code. So you want, but you know the parameters which the function receives. Then you may miss the order, but you can send the data with keywords. Like if I say in the previous example, I have sent age first, and then I have sent my name, and then I have sent my roll number, right? But it's a completely different order. But in this order itself, I want to send the arguments. If I want to say I want to send the arguments with a even though the order is different from the order which it receives, but I have to get the correct output, then I can use something called keyword arguments. Like I need to specify here that the age is 25 and name is Ranga and roll number is 27. If at all I specify the keywords like what data I'm sending, then the position of sending the arguments doesn't matter. Now you can see it will clearly execute. See, the name is Ranga, age is 25, roll number is 27. So when you are specifying the keywords like what needs to receive what in the arguments itself, then the position doesn't matter. Position doesn't matter at that point of time. So just what you need to do, just mention the keywords and give the data. So that's all. So keyword arguments and positional arguments. In positional arguments, the order of receiving data and sending the data is same, but the order of receiving the data and sending the data is different in keyword arguments, but you mention out the keywords like what receives what. My name should receive Ranga, roll number should receive 27, age should receive 25. So you are mentioning it while you are sending the data elements, then that is called keyword arguments. Now let us study what are called default parameters. Now, now let us understand something called default parameters. So what are these default parameters? Suppose you are playing a game. When you are actually playing a game and when you are signing up, you don't actually want to give your name. Let's say you don't want to give out your name. So what the game does, the game itself gives out some name, right? The default name, which will be assigned to you. So how to do that? Let's create a function called game, and it expects age, and it expects the name. Let's say that. And this now prints name and age, right? So when I'm actually calling this function, I'm sending my age, but I don't want to send my name. Do you think it will accept? No, it gives out an error. Why? Why it's returning out an error? The reason is, the reason why it's returning out an error is because the game function is actually expecting another parameter called name, but it's not being given to it. But I decide to not actually give my personal name or any other name. I don't want to give it. So there exists something called default parameter. Something like if I say A, B, C, D as name, and if I run the same thing, you can see that name is now A, B, C, D and age is 27. Even though I did not give any kind of argument to this, it still worked. Why? Because I have given this default parameter to this name that it says that if at all the user does not give any kind of argument to this variable, then you store this ABCD only when the person doesn't give his name. Suppose if at all he gives his name called Ranga to this, then you rewrite that value, then you take Ranga itself. But if at all he doesn't give this value, then you store this as the default value. So this is how you are going to use default parameters, that if at all when you doesn't give out the values as arguments, then what you need to do, you need to actually mention a default parameter, and there exists some order to follow in mentioning this arguments. Like you have learned many arguments, right? You have learned positional arguments, you have learned keyword arguments, and you have learned default parameters. So how to there is some specific order to write this. Like in a function definition, you have to write non-default parameters first. Whatever the non-default parameters are there, they have to be written first, and then you have to go with the default parameters. So this is the order. So whenever you're creating a function, so the non-default parameters are given first, and then the default parameters are to be written the next. And while sending the arguments, there is also one order, that is the positional arguments comes first. First is the positional arguments, and next is the keyword arguments. So I hope you got the order. So whenever if I try to mention the keyword argument first instead of the positional argument, then I will get an error. Suppose if I say this is called, let's say now name is equals to, I say Ranga, this is my default parameter, and say let's say age. So this is a different argument, right? So now if I say ABC and age is 27, do you think it will work? No, it will not work, because default parameter, non-default parameters has to be given first, and then the default parameters comes. So first we have to give out the non-default parameters, and then we need to give the default parameters. When it comes to the when it comes to this, like when it comes to the arguments, what I have to do, suppose if I change this like age, and then I'm giving name is equals to Ranga, and here I say when I'm mentioning keyword arguments first instead of positional arguments, do you think it will work? No, it will not, because the function should be written, the arguments should be sent in such a way that it receives the positional arguments first and then it receives the keyword arguments. So I hope you got the order. In the parameters, you expect non-default parameters first and then default parameters, and in the case of sending the arguments, first positional arguments and then keyword arguments. So I hope you got this. This is all for today. In the next video I'll cover up any remaining part. Yeah, thanks for watching.